So with the launch of operators in full swing, a lot of players are jumping in for the first time and seeing what the game has to offer, exploring all the maps and doing their best to obtain as much loot as possible. But with 4 very large maps and an additional one on the way, I took the time to spend the last 24 hours to test and see which locations offer the best loot for players. Now, before we dive into the bulk of this video, I'm going to be doing something I don't typically do here on the channel and just give you the information straight out on the locations you should be looking. But just keep in mind the purpose of this video is to give players a location they can go to immediately without needing any form of access codes or keys or anything like that. They can just go in, get the loot, and get out. And of course, I'm going to try to give you something from each map to give you a little bit of options. So within the dam location, you're going to be going over to the control tower or research and administration. A lot of the loot is condensed here and is a great location for you guys to get your initial loot. Within the barrier city, what you're looking for is the space travel and research. This is 2 buildings next to each other. It can be very hard to get to as it is a little bit more centered, but I found the best loot here. Within the spaceport, you want to go over to the launch towers. Very highly contested, but typically is loaded with tons of very condensed loot. And then within the blue gate, you're looking to head over to the central underground area near the outer gates. This is not far from the red checkpoint area. The catch with this location is you won't actually see the looting locations until you're actually underground. This one is loaded with a ton of maintenance tunnels and locations for you to move into. And keep in mind, this is going to be probably the most dangerous. That is pretty much the TLDR breakdown of the locations you should be aiming for. If you do appreciate me just getting direct to the point, make sure to drop me a like as well as subscribe. Actually helps the channel immensely. This is the lifeblood of how I make content, and subscribing actually helps me a ton. And with that, let's dive into it a little bit more detail. Alright, now that you guys have a good breakdown and understanding of the locations that you should be aiming to go to, let's talk about them a little bit more in depth, maybe help you out when approaching. So going with the dam first, this is the place that a big portion of us know because of the Fervor slam, and of course I recommend the control tower. Now the reason why this location is better is for a couple of reasons. The hydroponic dome complex location is out in the open. There's a ton of arcs there. There's a lot of competition. I tend to find there to be a lot of spawns in the area, and just it's visually hard to see things while arcs are constantly above you. That's just not a location I think is worth going. What research and administration does really well is it give you a mountain of coverage, and a good portion of the loot is condensed into one location. In a lot of cases, you can just take the zip up and you have an entire massive area full of loot. There's lockers that can give you a lot of treasures. There's a lot of side desks within that location. There's like medicine, while not heavily, a good amount of medicine. And then even on the back end of it, there's a way to go all the way up to the tower that will lead to multiple loot locations. And then of course, just in general, there's multiple entrances and exits. There's an underground entrance, a side entrance, a back gate entrance, and then I think another entrance on the side. And it actually bleeds really well into multiple extractions, specifically the extraction that has a really nice overwatch, and what you see, it makes it much easier for you to know if the extraction is going to. Now moving on to the buried city, this one's a little bit more newer for me. I actually don't do buried city as much, but the thing with the buried city is I think it's the worst of the 4 that I recommended, simply because I just don't feel like the buried city have a lot of great loot. And the best looting spot in my opinion is in fact the town hall. That requires a key, unfortunately, but the next best thing is going to be space travel and research. This is a yellow and a red location, so it's technically 2 locations, but they're very close to each other and they kind of bridge a gap to each other. The biggest negative of this location is it's very centered. I noticed there's a lot of spawns in the area, and it, while isn't always the most reliable when it comes to the best loot in the world, there is a lot of deaths that you need to go through, and it can be hit or miss. This is kind of why I think this is the worst location of the 4, and there's just so much risk going here that it doesn't feel like it's worth it. Well, in most cases, I just wouldn't come to the barrier city to actually fight or for looting. Again, this one's the lowest priority, so just keep that in mind. Moving on to the spaceport. In the spaceport, I think this is fundamentally the best looting location besides control tower. Not just at the spaceport, but just the areas within the whole entire map is actually just very good. The reason why launch towers stand out specifically is just there is a ton of condensed loot top, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, a lot of players actually sleep on the very bottom base that leads downward, and there's actually a good amount of loot there as well. So if you're a solo player and you're a little bit worried about approaching The towers, you can always just go to the bottom. It's going to be dark. It's going to be easy for you to like fight there. And for the most part, it's relatively safe. You'll see like a few spiders. So it's not actually that hard. Obviously, when you're going to the launch tower's top part, that's where a massive portion of the risk comes in. But in my opinion, the reward is actually very, very good. You're going to take a zip up, which can be a little bit dangerous because there tend to be rocketeers. Once you get inside the location, there will be a ton of the rollers that can explode onto you. So you need to have a medium weapon or a heavy weapon. I would say medium because there's going to be multiple of them rolling around. And then the loot is very condensed in one area. I've gotten so many great like snipers, the one with the scope. I've gotten mini mags. I've gotten a lot of cool things and just general resources, good epics and stuff like that. So it's a really great location. We're going to jump over to the other side as well and clear the other area. And this is again where the risk comes into play. Because you're going to be out in the open, there's going to be rollers, there's going to be other people coming up those zips, and this is where it can be a little tough. Overall, it's still the best location in my opinion, and it's extremely close to an extraction, and it's extremely close to another one of those little hatches. Get out relatively easy with the loot. Is a prime location. Finally, let's talk about the last location. This is within the Blue Gate. Blue Gate as a whole is a very tough map to approach. Very wide. There's a lot of sprawling fields. A mountain of arcs there. I mean, there's just so many overwhelming amount of arcs. It's a little hard to get to. I find that most of the spawns in this map specifically as well actually spawn you very far away from the location. It can be really hard to actually get to this location. Fortunately though, and this is just a little bit of time investment of me playing, I've noticed there's places that will lead down if you go above the area. It's a little hard to like explain it because you just have to visually know what you're looking for, but they actually do lead into the bunker. Worst comes to worst, you can always approach from the front area and then go through, but there is a lot of like bastions and some of the tougher enemies. They're actually not that aggro. You actually just gotta watch out for like the flyers, but even then the location is really hard to get to, and that's the biggest problem. The second biggest problem with this location is going to be the way that the loot is designed. Once you go inside, you'll actually start to see some of the looting locations, and while the whole entire area besides like I think the bottom floor is red, you're going to have a ton of maintenance shafts, a tons of places you're going to go. So the loot is kind of spread. So it is a nice solo looting location if you can make it to the location. And I think Blue Gate does have the best extractions, so it's actually not the worst. The hardest part is just getting there, which is impossible half the time, especially when they spawn you in bad locations. Overall guys, that's my breakdown of the best looting locations. I tried to give you one of each of the locations, as I know a lot of you like a variety in the locations that you actually fight and play. Let me know down in the comments if you think there are some other locations that are better. Again, this video was specifically centered around locations that doesn't require a key card, so obviously the card location is better. But if you don't need a key card or a way to get in, these are the best locations. But let me know down in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching everybody. Drop me a like and sub, and I'll see you in the next one very soon.